Want to do a quick shout out. I'm going to do a few shout outs probably on this one. First to onejillian, on your working on your diet and visualization. She wanted me to tell my story about visualization because I made a comment on her video about picture yourself whenever you see a palm tree, let it remind you that you're a tall, slender palm. And where that began with me, I always thought years ago that visualization was kind of silly, but you know what, if an idea is silly or stupid and it works, then maybe it's not a stupid idea after all. And I was at my dentist office, and as usual, like most people, I get my teeth cleaned. I do it twice a year so I don't get gum infections. Some people do it once a year, but I got to do it twice a year. And the other thing that dental technician always asks me about is how I'm doing with my flossing, which I'm very inconsistent. I'll have a really good 6 months where I floss real regular and do a good job of taking care of my teeth and gums, and then I'll have another 6 months where I rarely do it. So she told me this story. She said, visualize when you're a little kid and you used to stomp down anthills. She said, just think about that every time you're flossing. That piece of floss going in between your teeth is knocking down the anthills, because that's exactly what the bacteria are doing. They're building little hills to drill into your teeth with the chemicals they produce and destroy your teeth that way. So you're stomping down the anthills. And at first when she said that, I thought, yeah, right, that's one of the stupidest, silly things I'd ever, and I thought I would forget about it. But you know what? It's like, I think for a year and a half since she did it, it's like totally stuck in my mind. So since that visualization stuck in my mind, I have pretty much been the most consistent. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I mean, I forget, but I have been more consistent than I ever have in any other period of time. And I would say I do it very much on a regular basis, with only rarely missing a day where I don't do that. So visualizations work, and I think in some cases, at least with my personality, the sillier the better. And second shout out I want to give to maikeli7. I watched a series on Harley Haters, and I can relate to that too. I think there's even kind of a friendly rivalry, if you want to call it that, but we kind of trash on each other, even those Harley riders of us, although I obviously don't ride a Harley anymore. I did, after 25 years, I traded it for the Triumph, but still, a cruiser rider that rides a classic cruiser, I think Triumphs are kind of considered with the group, just like if you rode an Indian. And as a matter of fact, we have an Indian dealer close by. I'm in South Elgin right now, and just a little ways up that way, there's an Indian dealer. In fact, let's cruise by. I'm going to cruise that direction. I don't know if I got enough time, but anyway, again about the Harley Haters. Aeroliner 750 made a comment about AMF Harley, and that's an organization that I think around the middle 70s, maybe 76, owned Harley, and maybe all the way up till I think in 80. It was 81. I'm pretty sure that the Harley executives bought back Harley Davidson, so it became a Harley-owned company again instead of AMF. Well, we used to give the guys that rode AMF Harleys all kinds of crap. I mean, we'd basically just tell them we'd call it a bowling ball Harley. So even among riders and stuff like that, one of the normal things we do as Harley cruisers is we pull up on the light, and if the light's particularly long, what we usually do is start trashing on each other. I mean, everything in the world you could think of. I mean, trashing on each other's sexual preferences, type of bike, color of bike, anything we could even think of, just to trash on each other. And that's just I think an old school biker thing. I don't think young people do that anymore, at least not that I'm aware of, but that's a real old school thing. And when I still get together with my older buddies that have been riding cruisers for like 2 or 3 decades, we still get into that from time to time. So yeah, we'd pick on each other about the bowling. You ride a bowling ball Harley, and they actually weren't known for very good mechanical reliability either. They were the ones that were known to leak and break down and just not have good quality control. Although I guess with that it was certain groups of parts and certain bikes and engines, so you could actually, if you did the right stuff to it, I think you could even have an AMF Harley, and by putting a little money into it, you could get it to be as reliable as any other Harley by just replacing certain parts to get it up to snuff with what it should be. But yeah, that was not a notable error in Harley Davidson's history, the AMF part of that. And an update for those of you, thank you very much, those of you that have contributed to the Help LJ Fund. I talked to her this morning, and it's Tuesday now. She said Friday she will be off, so it looks like Friday I will be able to do the handing over the envelope thing. As of, well, first let me tell you, when I opened the PayPal account, some people asked for PayPal, so I opened the PayPal account, and within 24 hours of when my PayPal account went active, Laurie had $300 already. And that's what I asked you guys, if you could, everybody chip in a little bit to get her about $300 if she needed that to cover some of her extra expenses. And you guys did come up with that. So thank you very much for that. And right now, I haven't checked since a few more envelopes have come in. There's been a lot of envelopes come in, some checks, and quite a bit of envelopes with cash. But I think right now we're looking at just maybe under $500. And it may be, there was a couple of envelopes yesterday, so it actually may be we're over $500 right now. I'm not going to bother to really do an accurate account until Friday when it comes. And even then, a couple of you have told me that in the next 2 weeks, which is actually a week after Friday, you're just not going to have the money, but you'll send it later, and that's fine too. If anybody wants to send anything late, it'll still get to her. It's just, it'll be at a little bit of a later time, but no, I expect some things to come trickling in either through PayPal or through the mail if people choose to do that, and it will all get to the proper place. A couple of you also sent either a card or a personal letter along with the donation, and that'll be passed on to. The only thing, and this is actually some people requested this before I, or not before I, but after I came up with it too. A lot of people requested specifically too that they don't want the amount shown, they want the amount separated, so that's what I'm doing with everybody. Like I said, it's just going to be, if you send me an envelope and I can't match it up with a YouTube name, what I usually do is just put the first name on the outside, and then those of you that sent your YouTube names, and then the others that just wish to remain anonymous, I just put on the envelope anonymous YouTube channel. So it's really great, those of you that have supported Laurie and everything. And let's see, there was one other story I was going to talk about too. Oh yeah, about anthropomorphizing your bike. In other words, thinking of your bike as like as a living thing. That does happen with a lot of people. I got an interesting story when I was a kid, and I bet you I either hadn't been in kindergarten yet, or I was maybe 1 year in kindergarten. I was like maybe 5 or 6 years old, and my family had this car. It was one of those, I think, to remember it, I think it was a 64 Galaxy 500 or Fairlane. I can't remember. The one with the round tail. It had a little bit of fins on the back, and it had those big round tail lights, so maybe you guys could fill me in on the model. But anyway, that was, growing up, the only car my family even knew as far as a car. And around the age of 5, the car broke down. I think, as I remember, my dad said the engine blew or something like that. So instead of getting it fixed, he went out and bought a new car and brought it home. So he walks in the door and tells us he's got a new car, and me and my 2 sisters, which were both younger than me, so we must have been something like 5, 4, and 3 years old, we go outside and we see the car that Dad bought, and I don't even, to this day, I can't even remember what it was, but I remember what the old car was. This is what this really meant to me as a little kid. It's so funny because as a little kid, that was like our car, and I go out to the driveway, and our car, the 64 Fairlane or whatever it was, is gone, and there's this other car that's not our car. So I'm standing there staring in disbelief, and I'm like, where's our car? And then my dad tried to explain, well, you know, the engine blew on it and everything like that, and it's gone, it's hauled away, and here's our new car. And I'm just like, but I don't like the new car, I want our car. And I started breaking down and crying, and then right after I started crying, my 2 sisters started crying, and then my mom she came out and saw all of us 3 kids crying, wondered why, and then, you know, like any mom too, she starts putting her arms around all 3 of us kids, sobbing and crying, and then she breaks down and starts crying. And my poor dad, he's standing there staring at his family. I mean, he's coming home like the hero. Hey, I've got the brand new great car for you guys and everything like that, standing there like the hero, ready to, you know, have everybody, you know, surround him and say, yay, way you going, Dad. And instead he's looking at 3 kids and his wife all sobbing, missing the old broken down car with a dead motor. So I can completely understand looking at a mechanical object in a vehicle like it's a living being, because even to this day I remember that story very vividly.